Hey guys, it's your local lonely bird girl who has no friends besides birds. Ha!
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known.
Anyways, today I will be talking about the do's and don'ts of feeding your bird, what you should feed your bird, what you shouldn't, what happens if you don't do this for your bird, if you don't give your bird a good diet. So, no, don't agitate the other bird. It likes to aggravate other birds. So I gotta keep an eye on them. And then Cass didn't want to get out the cage, so. First off, you should be feeding your birds 50% vegetables, 10% fruit, and then 40% pellets. Excuse me. No, we're not fighting today. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Separate and distract. Or distract and then separate. No. You good, King? You good?
Stupid ass, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck, I don't.
Don't you dare. Here, get on my shoulder. Or fly off. Now they're flat calling. King is now the king of my shoulder. Alright, so yeah. With that being said, you should be giving your birds chop daily. Chop is basically just a bunch of vegetables mixed up together that you can feed your birds, and you can feed them a lot of different vegetables. There's recipes online, hey guys, that you can look up. Wow, I'm so loved today.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
I don't want this. So yeah. Anyways, moving on from that, 10% fruit. Alright, so fruit should be more used as like a treat than like something in their chop. At least in my opinion, I wouldn't put it in chop that I feed my birds just because it is a little high in sugar and your birds need more of the vitamins that come in vegetables than the ones that come in fruits. So yeah. I would avoid giving your birds seeds as their main food. A lot of pet stores do this, and I wouldn't recommend it because seeds are really, they're really fattening for birds, and it can cause a lot of health problems in the long run that I'll get into later. So yeah, but I'd use it more as a treat like the fruits because, you know, it's better to train them with that. So some things you should know about giving your birds chop is that there are some things that you should stay away from when making your chop. You should stay away from, and some of this might be obvious, like you shouldn't give your bird chocolate, you shouldn't give them any dairy products. Definitely not any type of your saliva should be in it, or any other animals, especially cats, because that's really toxic to birds. You shouldn't give them avocado.
I wanna end me.
It's definitely not alcohol. Don't get buzzed with your bird. No, we don't stand. So yeah, and you should avoid putting anything high in salt, high in fat, and high in sugar for your birds because it's just not healthy for them. So yeah. Also, forgot to mention this in the last clip, but chop stays good for about 3 to 4 days. So with that being said, you can keep it in an airtight container and store it in the refrigerator for 3 to 4 days. Sometimes it lasts less, just keep an eye on it. It depends on what you put into it. The harder vegetables usually last a little bit longer than the softer vegetables. So yeah. You want down, King? Do you want down? No, you're not getting that. You're not getting the seeds. He wants seeds, but I'm not giving that to him because that's his treat. So yeah. Also, some other things you should try to stay away from is things like peanuts. You can give them nuts, just certain nuts you shouldn't give them. So you should stay away from peanuts and because I can't pronounce it. I think it's CASARA. Don't know how to pronounce it. And meat. obviously don't give your bird meat unless it actually needs meat, but I don't know who would really own a bird without a license that does eat meat. So yeah, and when you do give chop, just try to figure out what they like and don't like, you know, just stuff like that. Next up, if your bird does start off on seeds like most do in pet stores, I would switch them onto pellets. Now, when you are switching them onto pellets, I'd be careful with which brands I go with. You should go with something more natural. Don't get anything with artificial flavors or artificial colorings, because that contains sugar in it and it's just not as healthy as something more natural for birds, you know? So I would do that. Some brands I recommend is Rowdy Bush, which is what I use for my birds. Other two that I got from Live Laugh Birds video, which is a great channel. Love her birds, love her personality.
I'm the queen of the castle, get down you dirty rascal.
Which was Harrison's and Tops. Sorry, I'm looking off my notes. That way I don't forget anything. Stormy, you can't climb on me like that. Okay, to transition your birds off the seeds, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to keep the seeds in, but you're going to slowly start adding pellets to it. Each day you take out less seed and add more pellets. And to transition them onto chop, you kind of do the same thing with the chop. You put pellets in the chop so that they're attracted to it. Excuse me, King? So yeah. So it attracts them to the chop and then they'll eat it and it kind of entices them. I still do this with my birds even though they'll eat it sometimes without it. I just do it because it's something they enjoy and it helps them to eat it more, especially him because he is a picky eater, kind of. So if it's something that he isn't as interested in, I'll put the little pellets in there. Parakeets, they'll eat almost anything I put in front of them. So yeah. The next thing I want to talk about is the health problems that come if you do not give your bird a proper diet. And I'm going to be looking off my notes for this a little bit because it's hard to remember the specific names. And I will link down below where I got this information from. But if you feed your birds an all-seed diet and that's all you give them, what's gonna happen is
Alright, now lose it.
oh boy, what are you doing? What are you doing? So yeah, they'll become lethargic and that means they're not going to want to move around as much, and that can cause them to become even more overweight or overweight. So it's just better if you don't do that. Another problem that comes with poor nutrition in parrots is heretic disease. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but that's basically a fatty liver disease. Renal insufficiency, which is a kidney disease, and it said that it's seen a lot in parakeets, like budgies and all that. They can get a respiratory impairment, and that's just going to affect their lungs and how they breathe, and that's something really sensitive, especially with these smaller birds, but in birds in general, because they just can't handle certain things because their respiratory is something that's really, really, really sensitive on them, which is why you shouldn't have things like candles going in the same room as them. And I wouldn't recommend even having a candle close to them, but that's just me. And I wouldn't spray anything like Febreze or use any harsh chemicals. In fact, if you clean their cage, I wouldn't recommend using any chemicals at all, but that's a video for a different day. That's something totally different. So yeah. And oh, I forgot one. I'm an idiot. It can also lead to musculoskeletal disease. Probably mispronounced that, but I'm not gonna be a vet because my dreams got crushed. So, anyways, reproductive problems as well. So if you plan on breeding a bird, or if that's something you want to do, I would recommend giving them a healthy diet. That way they don't have this problem. So yeah. And another thing that I read on this thing is that the two most common reasons for malnutrition in birds is overfeeding seed and giving them table food that really isn't bird safe. So here's the thing. If you're going to give your bird table food, give them things that they can have. Don't just give them something because you're eating it. Don't feed your bird a chip just because you're having a chip. That's really high in salt and that's not going to be good for them. And chips are really, really processed anyway and unhealthy for humans anyway, so if you're having carrots, that's fine. Don't put any ranch on it though, or any other thing. Just give them a carrot. Fruits are really good. If you just want to sit down and have a bowl of fruit, you can sit there and share a bowl of fruit with your bird, but do not, and I repeat, do not give your bird a piece of fruit that you bit off of, because that is going to give them your spit. And another reason is birds have things that can hurt humans as well. So if they take a bite out of that, you guys are transmitting things that are really bad for each other to each other. Sorry, Stormy just walked on my foot. Literally does not care. No cares are given. And I think that's about it. So yeah, want your birds to live for as long as they do, and birds do live a long time. Parakeets, I think it's 15 to 18 years. Cockatiels are about 25, I think, 23 to 25. Don't quote me on that because it's been a while since I looked up how long they live. So, yeah. I know you're pretty. So, yeah. If you want your birds to live their best life and be kings and queens, then I'd suggest giving them chop and, looking up what's good for them, what's not. Don't give them as much seed. Use seed and fruit as training things. So yeah. See you next time.